If anyone had predicted that the man who raised me like his own daughter would shatter everything I believed at 40 years old, I would have smiled and refilled my coffee mug. But there I was, seated at Uncle Stephen's worn kitchen table that Thursday night, watching his fingers tremble as he gathered his courage, and then he spoke words that divided my entire existence into two parts. Everything before that moment and everything after. For decades I believed I understood my story, why my childhood unfolded as it did, why my father vanished, why certain fragments of memory never quite connected. But revelation didn't arrive through a mysterious stranger or a forgotten journal or some unexpected package. It emerged from the one soul I'd never questioned. Before I share his confession, let me ask you something. Drop a comment telling me where you're experiencing this story from. Which city, which neighborhood, which small pocket of the earth you're sitting in right now. I'm genuinely interested to know where my words are reaching you. All right, let me transport you back to that life-altering evening. My name is Valentina. I'm 40, no longer married. And when this happened, I thought I'd finally achieved a comfortable, predictable rhythm. I wasn't overflowing with joy, but I had structure. A modest place to live, employment that covered expenses, a dog whose snoring rivaled any person I'd encountered. And nearly every Sunday, like clockwork, I visited Uncle Stephen. He'd been my constant. When my father departed, or so I'd always believed, Uncle Stephen filled that emptiness. He showed me how to balance on two wheels, how to maintain an aging vehicle, how to prepare breakfast without ruining the cookware. He cheered loudest at my performances, collected me when my first love betrayed me, stayed awake in hospital corridors when my daughter entered the world. If anyone had earned my complete faith, it was this man. So when my phone vibrated that Thursday night, not our usual Sunday, and his name appeared, I nearly ignored it. The day had drained me. Everything ached. Reheated dinner waited in the refrigerator, but instinct whispered, "Answer." "Hey, Uncle," I said, balancing the phone against my shoulder while removing my shoes. Silence stretched to static breathing on the line. Then his voice emerged weaker than normal. "Val, could you visit tonight?" I froze mid-motion, one sleeve still attached. "Tonight? Is something wrong?" "No," he responded immediately. Too immediately. "Everything's fine. I need to speak with you face to face if you're not exhausted." That qualifier, if you're not exhausted. Pure him, forever considerate, forever ensuring I had options. He never pressured, never manipulated. Which is exactly why, despite my body begging for rest, I exhaled and said, 20 minutes. During the drive, the city seemed subdued. One of those twilight hours when the atmosphere hovers between shades, and street lamps illuminate prematurely. The radio broadcast some nostalgic melody from the 90s, and I caught myself humming unconsciously, drumming the wheel, but underneath lurked this tightness in my core. Something felt wrong. Uncle Stephen occupied the same modest dwelling for generations. Flaking paint decorated the front railing, and the porch bulb cast that aged amber glow that transported me backward through time. Parking and killing the engine, I paused, observing the flickering light. "Pull yourself together," I murmured. "Probably just another complaint about his joints." When the doorbell chimed, I tracked his measured approach. The door swung open, revealing him. Diminished, that was my immediate reaction. He'd reached his 70s, but suddenly appeared a decade older. Shoulders curving forward, silver hair thinning noticeably. The creases I'd memorized as a child seemed carved deeper. "Val," he said, eyes containing warmth but also burden. "Hey," I smiled, entering and kissing his cheek. His scent remained unchanged. Coffee, aged paper, that persistent cologne from my teenage years. The house embraced me with familiarity. The groaning floorboard near the corridor, the ancient clock measuring time in the parlor, the worn floral sofa that witnessed countless family moments. He gestured toward the kitchen. "I brewed coffee, late I realize, but we'll probably need it." I chuckled softly. "Since when do we justify coffee?" Still that knot tightened. The kitchen glowed dimly, warmed by overhead lighting. 2 cups rested on the table, steam spiraling upward. He'd arranged sugar, cream, even those cookies I favored. Everything appeared so ordinary that the underlying tension felt amplified. We positioned ourselves opposite each other. My chair protested as I settled. He cradled his mug without drinking. His hands quivered slightly. "Okay," I ventured, maintaining lightness. "You're frightening me somewhat. What's happening? Are you ill?" His gaze flashed to mine, then away. "No. Well, my joints are deteriorating and my physician keeps insisting on more vegetables, but no, not that." "Then what?" I leaned closer, elbows meeting table. He inhaled deeply, deliberately, chest expanding like someone preparing to submerge. "Valentina," he said softly, "do you recall the day your father disappeared?" Instantly, everything shifted. Naturally, I remembered. I was 9. Mother sobbing into pillows, father's luggage positioned by the entrance, his expression unreadable, mother's tone cutting, my small heart pounding while I observed from shadows. Uncle Stephen intervening, voice controlled but commanding, his arms surrounding me, guiding me elsewhere, promising resolution. I swallowed. "Yes, I remember." He nodded slowly, studying the table as though answers lived in the grain. "And these years you've believed he abandoned you, your mother, that he deliberately chose departure." "That's what occurred," I stated. My voice emerged rushed, defensive. "He left, you witnessed it." He flinched almost imperceptibly. I might have missed it watching less carefully. "I was present," he echoed. Silence descended, dense and electric. The parlor clock measured seconds that landed heavily on my nerves. The refrigerator's hum, distant traffic, everything amplified, sharpened. "Why ask this?" I finally managed. "Why discuss him now?" He lifted his cup, sipped carefully, replaced it with a gentle clink. Then he faced me, truly faced me, as though memorizing every feature. "Because, Val," he said, "there are truths you lack. Things I've concealed and I cannot. I refuse to depart this existence carrying them." I laughed, but it fractured halfway. "Uncle, what are you saying? You're not dying." "Everyone's dying, sweetheart," he replied gently. "Some simply approach faster." His composure terrified me more than hysteria would. I retreated, arms crossing defensively. "So what? You summoned me for some theatrical final confession. Because if this concerns secretly despising my cooking, I'll survive." He smiled weakly. "No, I cherish your cooking, even the burnt garlic." "Then what?" I whispered. He reached into his pocket, extracting something small and folded. An envelope, aged, edges yellowed from excessive handling. He positioned it between us. My stomach plummeted. "What is that?" I asked. "Just one," he said. "I brought this because if I could navigate this with you, perhaps the remainder becomes easier." "Remainder of what?" My fingers twitched, but I didn't touch it. Touching meant everything would spill irretrievably. He breathed deeply again. I observed his chest rise, jaw clench, eyes glistening faintly in the kitchen light. "Val," he said quietly, "your father never stopped writing. He didn't vanish how you think." I blinked. "What?" "He wrote," my uncle continued, voice rough, "letters, many of them, for years." The room tilted. I gripped the table edge. "What are you saying?" My voice barely existed. "I never received any letters." "I know," he said, the words suspended there, cold and crushing. I stared, heart hammering in my throat. "What do you mean, you know?" He gazed at the envelope, avoiding me as though it offered safety. His fingers brushed its edge, then withdrew like contacting a wound. "Because," he said, voice fracturing, "they arrived here, at this address. He sent them through me, and that prolonged inhale again, the breath preceding truth, I prevented them from reaching you." Momentarily, I thought I'd misheard. The words seemed nonsensical, foreign. "You, what?" I asked. He finally met my eyes. No escape remained, no softness for concealment, just exposed, naked remorse. "I kept your father's letters from you, Valentina," he said. "All of them, for years." Something squeezed inside my chest. Air evacuated my lungs shakily. My vision blurred at the periphery, and briefly I thought I might lose consciousness. I'd spent decades believing my father simply continued onward, established a different existence, discarded me like forgotten belongings at a hotel. I'd carried that injury everywhere. Into marriage, into motherhood, into every relationship where I withheld slightly because fundamentally I couldn't trust anyone's permanence. And now, sitting in that familiar kitchen facing the man who taught me trust again, I heard words that shattered me in ways I didn't know remained possible. "I kept your father's letters from you." I stared, throat burning, pulse roaring in my ears. "Why?" I whispered. "Why would you do that?" He closed his eyes momentarily, as though that question nearly crushed him. "That," he said softly, "is what shames me most. And if you'll permit me, I'll explain everything." I couldn't respond initially. My mind overflowed with colliding thoughts like storm-tossed waves. Hurt, confusion, anger, strange trembling fear. For 40 years I'd lived with one narrative. My father departed without backward glances. And now, in one breath, my uncle had rewritten my entire childhood. I stared at that aged envelope on the table, edges worn, paper slightly yellowed. It seemed extracted from another lifetime. My fingers hovered but didn't touch. I wasn't ready. Not yet. Uncle Stephen watched me with eyes appearing older than his years. He didn't move, didn't pressure. He simply sat there, hands folded, shoulders weighted with remorse. After prolonged silence, my voice emerged as a whisper, "Tell me why." He swallowed, Adam's apple rising and falling like even that required effort. "I believed I was protecting you," he said. "Your mother. She didn't want his involvement. She was furious, wounded. She decided he didn't deserve space in your life, and I agreed then." His words struck like icy water. "My mother knew." He looked downward. "Yes." I felt heat sting behind my eyes. My mother had died when I was in my 20s, before I could question her about that night, before I understood adult complexities. My throat constricted. "So both of you decided what I should know, what I should feel, what I should believe about my own father." His jaw clenched. He nodded slowly. "We made a decision, and across the years it became increasingly impossible to reverse. Each arriving letter I thought, she's stable now, she's healing. Why reopen those wounds?" Then another year passed, and another. Eventually I realized too much time had elapsed. I feared revealing the truth. I leaned back, pressing fingers against my forehead. The room felt overheated, my heartbeat deafening. "Do you have all of them?" I asked, barely recognizing my voice. He nodded. "They're upstairs, in a box." A box? An entire box of letters I never knew existed. "Val," he said gently, "I know I wounded you. I know I failed you, and I know I cannot reverse any of it. But I want you possessing them now, every single one. You deserve that." I stared, searching his face for dishonesty, for any fissure-enabling doubt. But none existed, just remorse and something deeply human, fear of losing me. He rose slowly from his chair. "Let me retrieve them." I didn't speak, didn't prevent him, just listened to his footsteps ascending stairs. That familiar slow rhythm, one step pause, another. During his absence I surveyed the kitchen, the kettle, the framed photograph of 5-year-old me missing front teeth, the crocheted runner my grandmother created. Everything felt simultaneously familiar and alien. When he returned, he carried a cardboard box, not large, but heavy enough requiring both hands. He positioned it before me with a soft thud. "There," he said quietly. I stared. My heart pounded against my ribs like it wanted escape. "Do you want me remaining while you open them?" he asked. "Or do you want solitude?" I hesitated, then shook my head. "Stay." He sat again across from me, hands folded tightly. He looked like someone bracing for a storm he'd caused. I drew the box closer. The cardboard felt cool against my palms. My breath trembled as I lifted the lid. Inside lay stacks of envelopes bound with aged string, some newer, some decades old. Some creased and bent as though held excessively, others pristine, untouched. My name adorned every one. Handwritten, curved lettering, sometimes neat, sometimes slightly unsteady. My father's handwriting. My eyes blurred instantly. I covered my mouth to contain the sound. Years of pain cracked open inside me. I selected the first bundle, untied the string, chose the topmost letter. The paper was delicate. The ink faded. I slid it out, unfolded it gently. No dramatic opening existed. No apologies crafted in verse. Just a simple line. "Valentina, my sweet girl, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I need you to know I never stopped loving you." My chest tightened so painfully I had to close my eyes. He'd loved me. He'd written. He hadn't forgotten. Not once. Tears slipped down my cheeks, falling onto the page. I wiped them quickly, fearing damage to the fragile paper. I continued reading. He wrote about his existence, how he missed me, how he hoped I was developing strong and determined like my mother, how he wished he could witness me cycling, or hear my laughter, or watch me transform into the woman he believed I'd become. Every sentence was a small wound simultaneously, opening and healing. My uncle's voice interrupted the silence. "I used to read them. Everyone. I'd sit in this very kitchen reading them before storing them away. I told myself I was protecting you. But truthfully, I think partly I was angry too. Angry at him for leaving your mother devastated. Angry at how everything collapsed. I folded the letter carefully and placed it down. I don't know what to say, I whispered. You don't have to forgive me, he said softly. I just want you understanding why, even if it was wrong. I looked at him, truly looked. His lined face, the slump in his shoulders, the slight trembling hands. He wasn't the strong, unshakable man I'd grown up with. He was just a man. Flawed, frightened, human. I'm angry, I said honestly. I'm hurt. I don't know what to do with all this. I know, but my voice cracked. I'm glad you told me. He released a breath he'd probably held for years. We sat there in silence for a long time, just two people, two generations, two damaged hearts attempting to understand the same truth. Finally, I placed the letter back in its envelope. What happened to him? I asked quietly. My father. My uncle's face softened with something resembling sorrow mixed with guilt. That's another part of the story, he said. One I should have told you long ago. I felt my pulse accelerate again. What do you mean? He took a deep breath. The same deep breath before dropping the first truth. There's a reason the letters stopped arriving, Val, he said. A reason he never appeared again. I braced myself. Your father didn't leave because he didn't love you, he whispered. He left because he wasn't given a choice. And what happened afterward? It wasn't something any of us anticipated. My heart thudded so loudly I could feel it in my fingertips. What happened? I asked. He hesitated, looked down, then back at me, and when he spoke his voice trembled. Valentina, your father didn't walk out of your life.